Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rob Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, young prodigy. He's right there. CJ Vogel, you see him right there. My man Jeff Howe, esteemed colleague and my very good friend. Thank you guys for joining us for another edition of The Winning Drive. Coach is okay. He's fine. For those who may be wondering, Coach is on a little vacation. I'm not going to tell you where because I don't want to put Coach's business out there. But we appreciate you guys, and Coach will be back next week, so don't worry about it. But we appreciate Jeff for coming on. We're also going to have a lifetime Longhorn join us a little bit later on in this program when Jeff steps out, because Jeff's going to head over to the player availability. What's up, CB? Player availability on the 40 acres. Do we know what players are going to be available? We don't. Is that always a surprise?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the end of the school year, Rod, when the lunch menu just says like manager special. They just need to clear out what the inventory that's there. It basically a Texas player availability is manager special. We don't know until we show up.
Okay. The question is, did you still get the manager special? Will you still have your mind made up, or do you have to wait until it happened?
Man, back in my day, like in elementary school, you didn't have a choice. It was that or you didn't eat lunch.
Oh, see, in high school, we had some choices in high school. Actually, I think in middle school we had choices too. They would have like these little Pizza Hut pizzas on the side, and they'd have like these little sandwiches and like cinnamon rolls, things you could buy other than like the actual lunch. You could just do it. And then when I got to high school, bro, I went to high school at Houston Lamar. For those who don't know, it's like the richest school in HISD. It's in River Oaks. Like the kids have like they have like Mercedes Benz and Hummers. They drive to school. I'm not making that up. That's true. Right. I went to school with some kids who they live like 90210 kids. But it's right down the street from the Galleria. Galleria had Chick-fil-A and all that kind of stuff and all the stuff you want. So we would always just go to we would like leave campus. I don't think we were allowed to. We would like leave campus and go eat Chick-fil-A or whatever at the Galleria and then come back and eat. So honestly, I stopped eating at school like actual lunch probably freshman year. It's my last time doing that. One people that left campus. I don't know if they allow you to leave campus like that. People can still do that.
We were not allowed to leave campus.
Shoot. Frito Pie. See, Frito Pie and Dr. Pepper. See, be like that. Yeah, that's how I would do. We would have like nachos. Because I had some nachos and some other stuff that you could buy, and you didn't have to eat like the lunch. Spicy chicken sandwich on Mondays, Wednesday, Friday. Boom. See, big buddy, pal, chief, big guy. Know what I'm talking about. See,
I was real jealous of what was going on. Well, I mean, I would just see the photos on Twitter of what was going on 2 miles down the road at Allen High School. Where they had a Taco Bell, a Chick-fil-A. They had Schlotzsky's inside the high school.
What?
They had a Wendy's, and all of it's just sitting there. I'm just like, I'll go to my Italian line. We got a burrito line. It was a big deal when we ended up getting like every Tuesday and Thursday they'd ship over about 300 Chick-fil-A sandwiches. And if you got there early enough, you get a couple. I'm looking over down the street and man, that looks kind of fun.
I didn't know that about, you said, is it Allen you said?
Yeah, wow. Allen's got it.
We were like you, CJ. They would have like, I don't know, it was like the PTA or some whatever. They would bring in like different foods and they would like sell them at lunchtime to make money, I think. And Chick-fil-A sandwiches was always one of the top items. And they would bring in different stuff. Hey, Taco Bell was another one. My school was like a prison. I think a lot of the same architects built prisons in high school. So yeah, they weren't letting us leave the school because we weren't coming back. That's true. So we came back. So it wasn't a huge deal. So they never lost track of us saying, oh man, why didn't these 20 kids come back to school? No, we were athletes, so we had to come back, go to practice, lift weights, all that kind of stuff. We just didn't like the terrible food they had, so we went to go get this food, and then boom, that's how it is. Our high school just served military types. I know that's why we had to make other arrangements, man. It was like, nah, we're better than that. But trust me, I had my days where I just ate whatever the hell the school served, and I looked forward to those days. We had to schedule the lunch menu, like what they were going to serve on what day. The pizza on this day, the burger on this day. Like, Mom, I need a lunch on Thursday because they serving that terrible meatloaf or whatever the hell they serve. So I need you to make me a sandwich. All right. Way too much time spent on that. Don't even know how we got to that, so I apologize. All right.
It's back to school, so it applies.
Oh, that does apply. Thank you. That's why Jeff's the man. That was very relevant. All right, super chats. Throw those out there. We'll address as many of them as we can. Of course, Super Chats always jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time, but we'll try to address as many questions and comments as we can throughout the show. I got a couple of topics I want to bring up with the guys, and also in addition to the player availabilities that'll be coming up later on. But my man Jeff is going to head to those, and we're going to bring on lifetime Longhorn to come help us break down some of the team notes and nuggets from training camp so far for the Longhorns. Let me throw this out there, guys. A topic I've been thinking about this defense, right? And the question about the defense, at least one that I have been pondering, is are they going to be indeed better than last year's defense? Like, it's a top 5. Like, last year was a top 5 defense. Like, it's one of the greatest defenses in the history of Texas football. Like, in what ways can it be better? Jeff, you and I talked about this actually at one point in terms of the turnovers and the takeaways. You're going to ask this defense to keep the same level of execution and the same level of havoc in a lot of areas, right? Sacks and tackles for loss, right? Forcing negative plays. Also the pass defense, which they were also a top 5 pass defense for most of the season. They were, close to being elite rush defense as well. So all those elements you keep. But in order for them to be better than last year, that's what people are saying, better. Not just as good, better. Mm-hmm. They got to add something they didn't have last year. There's got to be some new element that makes them better than what they were last year. Now, maybe they just get more sacks than they did, higher pressure rates. They do everything, but do it better than they did last year. That could happen. My belief is that they're going to add something new this season. Last year, what really helped them, in addition to players achieving, right, at a high level, of course, Janae Barron being Thorpe Award winner, and Makuba being a second-round pick, Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, those guys playing at a high level. In addition to all that, I think schematically they evolved too. We talked about this with Johnny Nance coming on. They got the NASCAR dime package. They got the 3D tackle package, big nickel. They became more versatile. They became more evolved. I would say more modernized, more multiple as a defense. And I think this year we are seeing something that could be the secret sauce in them improving the defense. I don't think we've seen them publicize or discuss, at least to this extent, so far as in Sark's tenure, this many guys that are cross-training and playing multiple positions. Like, it's crazy. I mean, I would say, I'm being conservative. 60% of the defense is literally cross-training at a different position. Like, he's admitted that, like, oh no, yeah, this guy he's playing some nickel for us too. Came in as a corner, playing some nickel, or yeah, these guys are gap flex. We move them around in the gaps. Oh, our linebackers, they're also working edge, or they're edge working linebackers for Trey Moore, right? To me, that is it's too prominent to be a coincidence. It's definitely intentional, especially for a guy like me who said for years the future of football is positionless football. And I am ready to say that this defense is futuristic in a sense, because I feel like they're cross-training more than half the defense, like literally. And and then I think when they're recruiting guys, they're starting to recruit guys in that aspect as well, and bringing in Akina, who I know is also a big believer in that, because that's kind of one of the places I got it from. Was under Akina's philosophy. I think maybe that's the new added element, and I think you guys have said that Sark mentioned this, that they're going to be able to match up week to week, specifically with opponents based on their depth and versatility, that they could have a different almost starting lineup for different teams depending on how they want to attack the defense. I feel like that's the next step for them, or one of the next steps for them, that could make them better than they were last year.
I agree with you, Rod. I see the vision. To me, it's about your depth on defense is to the point now where you get into like, hey, you always want to figure out who your best 11 are, right? Well, you get into like number 16, 17, 18, so on down. Those are still starting caliber players. So it's about getting as much talent on the field as you can. But at the same time, kind of like we talk about offense, from a defensive standpoint, you want to be able to put guys on the field without being predictable on what you might do. It makes matchups it makes offenses that hunt matchups that much harder to hunt them if they realize, all right, we can't exploit Anthony Smith in coverage. But at the same time, he's still physical enough to play in the box and stop the run. Hey, we can't exploit Trey Moore in space to this extent that we want to, because he's actually pretty good in space. So that to me is what it's all about. My question is, Rod, do they start from that standpoint of just unleashing hell, or do they kind of gradually get there?
I've got some interesting thoughts here, because one, I think it plays into what you said, Rod, about finding that positional versatility. I think for a while the term tweener was kind of looked at as a knock for a lot of guys. Now it's looked at as, okay, now you're just using different packages, right? I know Texas didn't land a Jake Cruel, but you weren't in for a Jake Cruel because he was a tweener in years past. Now you're looking at him as a guy who, if you don't like him specifically off the edge in certain instances, you could throw him back deep. I think Texas did just that with the Trey Moore this year, is going to do that with Trey Moore this year, right? You move him back to that second level. Jelani McDonald is a guy who maybe a little too big to play corner, maybe not big enough to play linebacker, but in certain instances, because of his physicality and his ability to move, you can play him at safety, spin him down to the box, and now you're playing a big nickel down there. So there's certainly validity to it. The one thing I wonder is, how do you weaponize the positionless approach without getting too light or too thin in certain instances? Because otherwise you're taking, again, what you believe to be a tweener or a guy with a lot of versatility. That there's going to be a place. It's hard to say, because Rod, if you're a cornerback playing safety, you're out of position, right? You're not as physical, perhaps, on vice versa. If you're a safety playing cornerback, maybe you're not as quick. Where's the give and take there?
Yeah.
And how do you balance that give and take given the movement to the other positions? Or is it just you're that deep that you feel like, okay, doesn't matter what the personnel is or what their deficiencies are, we know that other players on this field will be able to make up for it. Interesting give and take there.
Yeah, it is. And that's a great point, CJ. I think part of it comes back to what Jeff has talked about, having like those stabilizers. There are certain guys who are not necessarily position flex or hybrids, or guys who are multidimensional, like Leon Lafau. He's one of your stabilizers with this kind of help you with the structural integrity of your defense, kind of what you're talking about. So just like, well, you got too many tweeners and hybrids on the field. Oh, I'm gonna take against hardball ball. That ain't gonna work. I'm gonna take advantage of it. I'm just gonna roll downhill. Dan Quinn actually dealt with this, because Dan Quinn in the NFL, he's a big hybrid guy. He loves hybrids. Micah Parsons, one of them. He loves 3 safety packages, that kind of stuff. And he dealt with this with the Cowboys. And I think for one of his things was he's had to find the right combination of players. And I think for Texas, they have the depth to find the right combination of players. Now, they're also Texas, they don't have to settle for the tweeners who are undersized.
Right.
Texas is such a big brand. They can get the tweeners that are Anthony Hills. Like, he's a tweener. He's just a skill set tweener, it's not the frame that's a tweener. There are people right now, Matt Miller, among other NFL scouts, saying, "Oh, he's an edge guy." I'm like, what? Like, oh, he's a linebacker. He has more value on the edge because he can make splash plays and actually rush the passer. So if you're Texas, you don't have to always get the Quandre Diggs tweeners. You can go get the Jelani McDonald tweeners. That's like, oh no, he got the frame for it. We just got to find the skill set that's compatible with the scheme to put him in. And so I think that's another thing how you can avoid for Texas. If you don't get the tweeners yet, don't settle for the guys who have the lack of frame and size, because that's usually the biggest concern with a tweener. Look at the guy who's a tweener because of his skill set. Because his skill, he has that skill. Yes. Brad Spence is a kind of a tweener, but a different type of tweener.
No, I agree with you, right? Yeah.
I'll throw this real quick before I give it to you, Jeff. The tweener thing. I've always made this comparison about the tweener. I remember, I'm old enough now. Look at my gray hair. I'm old enough now to remember when tweener was a knock on you. I remember Tom Herman talking about, he's a tweener. Like, it's a throwaway term. He's a tweener. We don't know what the hell to do with him. That's basically what tweener means. I don't know what the hell to do with him. And it really does. It's an indictment on your value as a player, pretty much. Tweener, yeah, we don't know what to do with him. But then over the years, as positionless football has become more of a priority, tweener has turned into hybrid. Hybrid has become position flex. So position flex, you draft in the first round, but hybrid, tweener, it's all the term. It means the same thing as it did 25 years ago. But now that we value it more, we're gonna call it a position flex rather than a tweener because it's a better term. Yes. And to me, it's the difference between a hooker, a call girl, and an escort. They're all the same thing. You're going to pay something very different for each of those. I'm not saying I have experience with that. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. All right. But that's basically what the tweener, hybrid, and position flex is. It's the same thing. Now they just found a way to prioritize it and weaponize it. So they want to value it differently. So they want to call it position flex because tweener sounds like a throwaway term. That's the difference. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
No, this goes back to conversation. I think it might have been a live stream last night where we talked about this, but a guy like Ryan Niblett on offense, or like last year, Amari Niblack, if you put those guys on the field, you become really predictable because they can only do one thing. Mm-hmm. Well, again, just kind of like I said last night, it's not enough on offense to just be fast. Like you may be fast. Okay, what else can you do? And when you flip it over to the other side of the ball, Rod, I think the era of specialized sub-package defenders are becoming extinct because, hey, it's third down. I'm going to put in my pass rusher. Okay, well, if it's third and anything medium, maybe I'll just run at that guy that doesn't defend the run worth the damn and set myself up for 4th and 2 and take my chances.
Boom. Michael Parsons had to deal with that. He's running at him. Like, I'm going to run.
So that's what we're talking about. And like you said, it's not so much the body type or the athleticism, it's the skill set. And that's where you're going to need to see, can we see a guy like Brad Spence do more than just rush the passer? Can we see a guy like Ty Anthony Smith do more than just be a coverage guy? As far as your stabilizers go, 2 of your stabilizers I know for sure, Leonga Lafau, Michael Tav are 2 stabilizers.
They got Tav working nickel though.
Yeah, but here's my other thing.
I agree with you. He's a stabilizer. Yeah, I just want to say that he's a white safety, but he's a stabilizer. I agree with that. Yes. Yeah.
Can Ethan Burke be the stabilizer up front that Barron Sorrell was last year?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and I love that
because Barron Sorrell never had to come off the field. Mm-mm. You can play him on passing downs, play him on rundowns. You know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, he spun in on your NASCAR.
Can Ethan Burke be that guy?
Listening to Rod, your explanation of tweeners now, tweeners certainly got the benefit of the doubt in the PR world because there's, to your point, positionless versatility, position flex, a lot of puff pieces in place for these guys who previously probably we're on the short end of the stick of depth charts and guys of prioritization decisions, right? But I look at this Texas defense kind of like a chessboard, right? And I've been playing a lot of chess lately, so I'm going to nerd out a little bit. But, when you talk about not having, the required amount of various skill sets on the field, I kind of look at it in a sense of your stabilizers or pawns, not in the sense of skill sets or whatnot, but you need those guys to set the board, right? And you can't go in having too many rooks. You can't go in having too many knights, right? That's where you get deficient in areas in which you need to take up board space, create a threat down the field, find a chaos or havoc factor if you want to blitz. And again, this is all going back to this chess analogy here, but how do you find that positionless versatility here? Well, we've talked about it, and I've likened this Texas defense to chess already. They have so many different queens on the board. Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill. I mean, shoot, you could throw a Taff in there with the way that he's also spun down and played in the box as well. But how can you make sure that you're not deficient in different places of your defense? It's all by having other guys on the field with certain skill sets that, in a way, work very well with one another, but make sure that you're not hung out to dry and get mated to wrap this one up.
Damn. That's why we call him the prodigy, ladies and gentlemen. That's brilliant. I'm not even a chess guy, but that's just boom. That's money in the bank. That was it. Yeah. And you're right. How do you? Yeah, I love what you said about that. They got a lot of queens on the board that can move around, go all over the place for you. But you do need the pawns to set the board. Damn, CJ, that was good.
I think another one of those stabilizers up front, I think could be Cole Brevard. Because I don't think when you look at defensive tackle rotation, I don't think Cole Brevard is not a guy that you probably think about, oh, yeah, you want him on the NASCAR package. But on first down, good luck trying to root him out of the A-gap. Like, he's gonna be a load to try to move. The other thing, too, with Michael Taft, I know he's been working at nickel. And this isn't like me knocking his athleticism or anything. I know, right? Like you said, like the white safety, like we all like to pick on him and have a good time and have fun at the white safety's expense. But I think Michael Taft is so good as a middle field safety because that's where he can use his speed and his ball skills to play over the top and make plays.
Yeah.
That tool he's got is too valuable for the structural integrity of this defense, and I don't want to mess with it.
I kind of agree with you on that, actually. I don't disagree because he's a fixer.
Yeah.
Even PK said that, by the way. I said it before PK said it, but PK said it recently too. He was like, no, that I did. We're just observing. I said, I didn't like, I'm not telling you, oh, I'm smart as PK. But I was observing, watching the film. He fixes a lot of problems. You watch him before the snap. He'll get guys moved around. You can see him communicating to guys and yelling at guys like, hey, do you understand the check? We got the audible here. He's that guy. He gets confirmation. He's the air traffic controller out there a lot of the times. And you lose that if you go to nickel. You lose that. That you can only do that when you have the view, when you can see the whole field, when you can communicate with all the hell. You're at nickel. I'm in the mix. I'm right in the mix of it. I got to look behind me to the safeties.
Yeah.
Around me. At safety, I'm last line of defense. I can shout to the corner. Hey, Robbie, hey. I can shout to everybody.
And you see everybody nodding back or tapping helmets to make sure they got the check.
Yes, exactly. You can't do that at nickel. So I agree with you, Jeff. I think
that also plays into why Texas has had quiet days for Taft. And I made a big emphasis of this after SEC Media Days when Sark mentioned it, saying, we have days in which Taft can't talk. Someone else has to speak. And whether that's a Derek Williams, whether that's a Jelani McDonald, if Taft does spin down, who's going to be in the back center field? It's going to be one of those two. Now, is that the same? We'll have to wait and see, but they're trying. Again, the depth chart of getting guys in certain specific positions. Once again, they're trying to build it as often as they can. There,
it better be a young Derek Williams stepping up in that role. He's played it. He started. I mean, that guy's a bowler. He knows the defense by now with all the continuity. He should be the one that when Taft is like sitting like, hey, Taft, let somebody else step up. He should be the one controlling things because he's got the experience to do it too. Jelani McDonald can do it as well. I mean, he can do it, but he moves around a lot. Derek Williams hadn't moved around, even though I heard he also can experiment with him at nickel if they need to. But he's at that safety position where I think you are, like you said, Jeff, so critical to the structural integrity of the defense.
But this is another reason, and we see it. We saw it last year a little bit more with Johnny Nansen coming in, and I think now with Dwayne Akina coming back, we've seen more cross training on defense and getting guys to work multiple positions. Because I hadn't heard of it to the extent that I did when Coach Akina got to Texas. And you know what, Rod, like you were saying, hey, like I was saying about Michael Taft, I'm not saying he can't play nickel. I just think he's so good at that. If Coach Akina doesn't come in and cross train, you don't figure out, you know what? Ahmad Brooks helps his defense a lot more at safety than he does at corner.
Amen. Great point. Yeah, I lived it. I lived it, and putting Nathan Vasher at safety. Who'd have thought that our two safeties were smaller than our two corners? But that was one of the best secondaries in college football history. I'm not just making that up. That's
true. And Nathan Vasher is one of the freaks that like just as good a corner as he was a safety. But the same, and just stay with me. I'm not comparing Michael Taft to this, but I'm saying the function that Nathan Vasher served when he played safety is similar to like the function that Earl Thomas had for that Legion of Boom defense.
Yeah.
The value of a dynamite middle field safety in today's game, it's incredibly undervalued. And that when you get somebody there that's really special, I want to keep him there. I don't want to move him. So for Michael Taft, I don't want to take him away from middle field safety.
All right, good conversation, good stuff there, guys. All right, let's thank our sponsor before we move on, and then we'll one of our sponsors before we move on, and then we'll dive into some of the super chats. Thank you guys for the super chats. We really appreciate you guys helping us out today. All right, let's thank Von Lane before we move on. Thank you to Von Lane. If you are traveling to any of the major cities in the great state of Texas, I would recommend Von Lane. It is a luxurious travel experience. I've taken it several times. I've taken it to Houston. I've taken it to Dallas. I've taken it to Fort Worth to visit family and on business. It is a great way to travel. It's better than dealing with the airport chaos and hoping your flight isn't delayed and dealing with the general stress of any airport experience. And it's also better than driving yourself. I actually have driven to Fort Worth and driven to Houston and San Antonio, and I would choose the Von Lane all day, every day, and twice on Sunday over battling traffic and road rage and all that stuff you have to deal with, burning an entire day of productivity when you decide to drive yourself. The Von Lane has a great experience from the start, right? From the jump, you arrive at a luxury hotel terminal, no TSA lines, no long-term parking lots, just a seamless boarding experience. It takes minutes, not hours. You settle into a plush leather seat. It's just one of 22 oversized first-class leather seats, and with 140-degree recline leg rest and a cabin attendant serving complimentary snacks, beverages, and on select trips a full meal if you need it. And if you need to relax, it's pretty simple. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. But if you want to stay productive, there's high-speed Wi-Fi and power at every seat. Fall travel is booking fast, as you can reserve your spot now for October trips to Texas versus OU, or you can book trips to F1 and ACL in Austin, or college football weekends in Nashville, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. Von Lane connects Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Nashville, Atlanta, Memphis, and now Knoxville, Tennessee, the Woodlands, Texas, and Plano, Texas as well. Visit vonlane.com. Use the code OTF25 to save $20 off your first ride with Von Lane. Von Lane is elevated regional bus transportation. We appreciate all of their support and ongoing sponsorship of the Winning Drive. All right, thank you very much to Von Lane. I know our man Jeff Howe is out because he's going to head to that player availability on the 40 acres. So make sure you keep it tuned in right here to On Texas Football. We'll have updates about what the players have to say at the player availability. But right now, speaking of players, let's bring on a former player, lifetime Longhorn Marcus Myers, joining us right now. Marcus, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's happening, fellas? How y'all doing?
What's going on, Marcus?
Doing great. Okay. Thank you for taking some time to join us, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, man. Good to see y'all.
All right, now we got some super chats we're going to get into in just a second. We appreciate all you guys, but I got a couple of questions. Marcus going to stick around for a while, so you guys have questions for Marcus. You can throw those out there in the chat as well. A lot of you remember Marcus Myers from his days on the 40 acres. Let me know if I'm right. Is it 02 to 06?
Yes, sir. You nailed it. Yep.
02 to 06. There's some damn good years now. All right. Yeah. Damn good years. Okay, so you've been paying attention to this ascent of Texas football under Steve Sarkisian, and obviously this particular team coming up in 2025. Can you give me some commonalities between this team, which is number one in the coaches poll, number one in the AP poll in the preseason for the first time ever, and arguably the greatest team that's ever been assembled for Texas football in its history in 2005? Are there any similarities you see?
Yeah, man. It's interesting when you talk about that, right? We have conversations all the time amongst ourselves and, as former players and with friends and stuff. I mean, we're into this stuff as anybody, right? And I think one of the things you begin to realize is, there were some years in there where we were getting top classes, but you didn't know if they were always the right fit for the program, if they were fully being developed in the right way. And then they didn't always have, top high-end talent above them in the junior and senior classes. But if I think back to when I came in 02, right, I had an elder statesman in yourself and Corey Redding and guys like that to bring us along. And we just started stacking elite talent on top of elite talent on top of elite talent that wasn't ever in a position that was required to play starting reps right away, right? Most guys cut their teeth on special teams. You would start to get some reps here and there, in some games that were going our way a little bit better in the second half. And that's what I see out of these units now, right? Is that you have these 4 and 5 stars that have had some time to kind of sit and marinate and be able to really understand the system. You've had that cohesiveness of those coaching staffs, which is unique, right? Because if you think back when we were around Rod, like it was kind of a revolving door on the defensive end of things, defensive, coaching side of things. And that was a good thing because guys were steadily getting hired, out, but mainly from the defensive coordinator spot. I remember, Bull Reese, retired after my freshman year. Then you had Coach Robinson come in, rest in peace. And then you had, Tomey and Chizik and guys that followed like that, right? So this team has a level of cohesiveness that I think maybe we didn't even have. And then they've been able to stack talent in a way that, it makes their practices like our practices were, where a lot of times you're going to be competing against the best. And so when they get out there in front of Ohio State, you're not going to be shocked by the speed. You're not going to be shocked by the size because they're seeing that in the first, second, and third team.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be on the practice field again this weekend for their second scrimmage of the fall camp. Marcus, I wanted to ask you, when you have been on campus for a few years and, you've been on some really talented teams. And then obviously you get to that 05, 06 season, you're looking at a team that maybe you think has enough to go the distance. What traits are you looking at in camp or for this team specifically that tell you they're in the right headspace to go the distance, even after 2 back-to-back years of coming this close?
Yeah, that's a great question, CJ. I think, to your point, when we were going into that season, we had just come off of an 04 season that we finished strong in the Rose Bowl, but we, stubbed our toe a couple of times along the way during the regular season. And so there was a level of hunger that we had. And I think that's a constant drumbeat that you hear from any of the player availabilities. Anytime you hear these guys talk, and it's not just coach speak, right? Like the coaches can say whatever they want. They have a job to do and they're going to steer them in the right direction. I think I've heard Rod speak to this before, but when things are at their best, it's really, really player driven. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's as true as can be. I was more worried about, all right, what's Rod going to say as an older guy if I kind of slack off a little bit in this rep? What is DJ going to get on to me about in the film room if I'm not paying attention? And so I think you're hearing more and more of that, right? I was listening before I joined where you were talking about, you both were speaking to, CJ, how there's days where Taft can't talk, right? Well, that's because other guys have to step up.
Right.
And I think you see each of them challenging themselves to rise to that standard. And even when you think about the guys that just went on to the NFL, I hear Jahdae Barron talk frequently about how he wanted to make sure he lived up to a particular standard. And Rod, Coach Keene always said the standard is the standard, right? And that didn't just apply in the DB room. That was across the board. So I think that's some of those traits I'm seeing, CJ, is that these guys want to compete amongst themselves and that their coaches aren't having to do a ton to get them ready to go. I was seeing something the other day on Coffee and Football about, some folks in the chat were talking about what are they going to have to do to get amped up? And are they using certain things as bulletin board material? Man, you lost to these cats in the semis
7 months ago.
Yeah, if that's not enough, I don't know. You probably don't need to be, donning that jersey. So
exactly,
they have the right mentality about it.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. We make a lot about sort of the number one ranking and all that kind of stuff, which is usually kind of bulletin board material. But if you're recruiting the right kind of personality, the right kind of football character, none of that matters. No. That guy is already obsessed with being the best, and those outside external factors, they really don't play that much of a role in their obsession to be the best, in their compulsion. Right. And you play with a lot of guys like that, Marcus. You had somebody, you're recruiting the right kind of personality. And even Mac talked about that. Mac said, we were talking to Mac on the Third Longhorn podcast. He's like, guys, it's no surprise to me that all you guys are still good friends to this day. And all the former Longhorns who were teammates and some who weren't teammates, they still come together and have a good time. He said, all you guys are made up of the same stuff. I recruited the same kind of guys. I recruit the same type of football character. He was like, that's why you guys, old generations, guy from the 90s, hang out with a guy from the mid-2000s, and they all get along. It's all good. It's like, same character. I was looking at the moms and the dads. I was looking at these things, and you didn't always, obviously, it wasn't 100%, but for the most part, he was recruiting character. And Sark says he is recruiting character and won't forsake it for talent.
Yeah.
And it matters. It matters. You know what I mean?
It makes a difference, man. And it's easier for the national media to kind of jab at, okay, he says we lead with this, but then you see him with the Lamborghinis at the recruiting visit. Oh, that's just part of it. That's part of today's game, right? Like back in our day, exactly. Back in our day, it was more truly about the facilities. Like that was like a facilities arms race, right? Like that was your shining thing, but underneath it, there was still the foundation, and I think these guys have that.
Bobby Burton and I had a little back and forth that on Twitter that you got involved with. I wanted to go over what you think about this offense. You know, do they have the playmakers? How much of those big explosive plays can we rely on with just Arch's legs as well? And, you know, as the season progresses, how quickly, in your experience, have guys who have fought for snaps that then earn that trust of a coach, how quickly does that then play into a factor of, okay, they're now reliant upon the rest of the team just as much as guys that came into the season as like the preseason, you know, first team guys?
Yeah, for sure. You know, and I'll somewhat caveat this, right? Like, I think, you know, obviously, like, I wasn't the full-time starter like Rod was, right? I was the role player. I was playing special teams. You know, if I got a little time in at the end of the game, I got my time in, right? But I think what you come to find, especially this season with the very first game out the gate being Ohio State, there's going to be a couple guys that pop. You know, I remember back when we played OU that year and Jamal got the ball and he took off. Well, from there forward, we knew from practice already the young guy was ready. But when you do it on the big stage, at that point, the coaches know they can trust you. And so I think you'll have a handful of guys. And that's, you know, like you said, CJ, on that Twitter exchange, it's a little bit harder to pinpoint exactly who it is just because you haven't seen them do it yet, right? But the talent is there. And Sark's still calling the plays. So as long as he's still calling the plays, I have faith in these guys to be able to put something together. And then I think what really helps them, as much as we used to like, you know, what they would call that warm-up game. I hear Coach Brown said that a lot too, still, Rod. They have the inverse of that this year, right? They got to get to it right out the gate. But let's be real. The next 3 games are warm-up games for SEC. So, you know, with that, then they'll have more time to work in some of these guys and take from, okay, this is what we saw in Ohio State. Maybe here's a little wrinkle that we can implement in the next 3 games. Here's something that we can just throw in the game that we may not come to until the end of the season again. But now I need this to be on film for people to account for, as well as I need to see how this young fella responds. So I think they're going to get it from a bunch of different spots.
I think so. I don't want to compare apples to apples of, you know, Jamal to Trey Wisner, but a year ago, due to fumbles against Mississippi State, put the ball on the ground against Oklahoma, Texas kind of moved on from Jaden Blue being that guy. And sure enough, 13 rush attempts, 118 yards later, Trey Wisner was a guy that folks were looking at saying, oh, he really took hold of his opportunity in the Cotton Bowl there. So, Rod, I mean, we've talked about how many different guys could step up and have the talent to step up. It feels like Texas is in a very healthy position for a lot of new names to hit the national circuit this year as well.
To their conversation that you were pointing out earlier, the one on Twitter about Bobby pointing out who's the most supposed to play. By the way, great breakdown there, CJ, about the home runs you're talking about, the 50+ yard gains. I would encourage anybody. Did you write a piece about that too?
I did. Yes, yeah. I had the quill working.
Go check it out, guys. OnTexasFootball.com. That's why I tell you guys, we talk about a lot of stuff here, but the meat, most of the meat bone, there you go, is at OnTexasFootball.com. You can become an OTFOG by just simply using that promo code OTFOG. Get a year's access to OnTexasFootball.com for just $39.95. Great articles by CJ and Jeff and Bobby and Jerry. And Blake throws up great stuff up there as well. Actually, I may have my first article at OnTexasFootball.com.
Is the top 25 here, Rob?
I'm going to put up my all-time DBU rankings, and I got to put up an actual list because I can't just do the list online. I mean, on the YouTube platform, people get upset. They want to see it, old school people. So I'm going to actually post it on the OnTexasFootball.com.
How deep are you going, Rod?
Dude, last time I went 50. I know I shouldn't go that deep because I opened myself up to so much criticism.
You should do the top 40.
Really, it's hard to rate the 50. Well, trust me, at 30 through 50, I'm basically just throwing blanket at the wall and seeing if it sticks. Right?
Top 40 on the 40 acres. Hey,
yeah.
Get the graphic.
The problem with you doing 50 is if one of your boys don't make the 50, you might hear about it.
Oh, bro, last time I can't tell you how many old school guys hit me up. They were upset about like, hey, like William Graham, and he just hit your boy. I'm like, hey, what's up with this? Why you know, Coach Bedford hit me up. The old school guys like, hey, why you have me ranked here? And I'm like, man, there's a formula to this. I mean, it's all based on this. I had myself outside the top 20. I think I was outside the top 20. That's how deep DBU is, guys. I'm outside the top 20. Like, I'm not even one of the even close to the greats in DBU. And I might be I'm pushed out even further because Jaday's gonna get added. The last time I did it was 2015.
Oh man, yeah.
How many great DBs have been added to Deshaun Elliott? And it's a bunch of them on that list now.
Yeah.
So Rod B's gonna be outside the top 25. I may be hovering around the top 30 in my own DBU ranking. Yeah. So I'm telling you, don't be hating on my list because I put myself low on the list. All right. It'd be different. I put myself in the top 20 and top 15. You'd be like, Rod B, come on now. All right. I'm the greatest number 21. That's why I put everybody else kind of behind me on that. So
there you go.
All right.
I'm excited, Rod.
Ranting about that. Let's take some super chats here, guys. And I got some more questions for Marcus, though, but let's take the super chats real here. Buddy, Pal, Chief Big Guy. We love that name. That's a great handle. Thanks for the super chat. Says thoughts on Baumeister increasing scoring since an opponent going 3 and out inside their own 15 means Texas should get the ball in prime shot-taking territory. Damn, that's good. I like Buddy, Pal, Chief Big Guy here. I mean, that's a great. Nobody's talking about special teams. Nobody's really bringing it up at all. But guys, Texas totally revamped their special teams. New punter, new place kicker in Mason Shipley. All right, you're gonna have new returns. Hopefully, your gunners will improve. But you had one of the worst kicking games and special teams units in college football last season. It was the worst season for Jeff Banks as a special teams coordinator for Texas since he's been here. And I expect that to improve because prior to last season, Jeff Banks' special teams was money. I mean, they were always in the top 20 ranked units in all of college football overall, if you were looking at it. So I'll throw it to you, Marcus. You're the guest here first. I mean, thoughts on not only the punting, but Mason Shipley, how all of this, the special teams now being upgraded is going to help offense. That's what Buddy, Pal, Chief Big Guy here is saying. But I think it's going to help the defense more than anything. Yeah. Right? The defense, I think, actually benefits from a great punter.
I think they all do. And, you know, as great of a special teams coach Banks is, he didn't all of a sudden forget how to start doing, you know, those types of things, right? There's a guy you and I are really familiar with that's back roaming the sidelines that, if I recall, used to do a pretty good job on getting gunners together as well as that punt block team and Coach Akina. So I think when you meld it all together, it does, you know, create a really great opportunity for the defense. If you get a chance to pin guys, you know, pretty deep because you know that your kicker can put it where you want it. I mean, good luck, right? When you get, you know, these different parts moving that we've been talking about, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about in terms of, you know, how these guys are, you know, I heard y'all saying tweener earlier in my brain. I kept screaming hybrid. And then you got there. Like, all right, we're in hybrid now. But yeah, these guys are going to be able to move around so much, man, that like that the special teams that you can rely on is going to be important. Knowing that you have a kicker that can nail it from deep is going to be important, right? Like that's something that they couldn't fully trust last year. And I'm sure that changed how Sark went about calling some of his plays. And yes, I mean, I think, what was his name here? Buddy, Pal, Chief Big Guy. He is, you know, he makes a good point there, right? Like a lot of times I'll find myself, you know, yelling at the screen when you're close in midfield, take a shot. And, you know, I hear you, even Rod, you know, we're talking about how you were watching the DBs and how it'll be an advantage for them that they're getting to play this deep ball quite a bit, right? We know that Arch likes to chunk it. We know that that's been a staple of Sark's offenses over time. If you look at any stop he's had, it's always been an element of his game. And I think it's just something that Arch is much more suited for, as well as the body types that they have out at wide receiver now. So I think, you know, it's one of those pieces where I think we often talk about it and people don't have the full appreciation for complementary football and how 3 phases of the game really are 3 phases of the game. It's not, you know, that 1/3 isn't any less important than the offense and the defense. In fact, it oftentimes can be the difference, right? So I think the sky's the limit for, you know, where they can go if they just execute on what they have there.
Yeah, to Buddy Pal, Chief Big Guy's comment here, Texas forced 36 3-and-outs defensively a year ago in just the regular season. I don't have the numbers for the SEC championship game and beyond, but I'm thinking about, you know, how big of a difference did we already know that the punting game was against Georgia, right, in those field position games. It wasn't pretty for Texas in any facet of that game, but specifically punting on top of the offense, putting your defense in very tough, difficult situations. This is one where Texas can make up a lot of ground. And again, we talk about the talent on this defense. We also talk about, Texas likely to be facing some much better quarterbacks in 2025.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
They were facing a bunch of me's out there, right? A year ago. Quite frankly, it was not pretty for some of these guys. Point being, if you got to go 75 yards instead of 40, odds are someone on that Texas defense, as we talked about, a lot of those queens and rooks and power guys, they're going to make a play in which it halts, stymies, completely derails a drive, and then you're back on offense. So I'm with you. I think Bo Meester is going to be a big, big, big addition as long as Texas can figure out the Gunners. I'm not going to go on a Gunners rant, Rod, but
it's good.
You and I, the chat knows, no easier way to piss me off in a game of football than having bad Gunners.
Yeah. No, honestly, I feel you because I was a gunner. I mean, honestly, when I got to the league, that's mostly what I was. I was a gunner and special teams guy. And Texas, at one point, Keaton Crawford and Keenan Robinson, they were like the two best gunners in college football. For those who don't know what gunners are, they're the two guys who run on a punt. They run downfield, and they're the primary guys trying to tackle the punt returner. They're the first line of defense, if you will, for the punt returners. And they get down there, and your job is to take a shot in the dark, pretty much. You're going to be going down there full speed. You got a DB, sometimes two, that are trying to deter you, right, from making that play. And you got to get down there raising hell like a bat out of hell and just go at least force that punt returner to have to make a move or two. That's the least of your responsibilities. Like your basic responsibility is to force him to make a move or two so that the punt coverage can get down there. If you're a baller, you make the play. If you're a G, you make the play. If you're a dog, you make the play. Yeah. All right. That's when you make money. That's when NFL special teams coaches go, that guy can actually make this team just being a gunner. He's that damn good. Mm-hmm. And that's, like I said, your boy did that for a couple of years in the league. I wasn't necessarily playing DB that much. I can tell you that. It was mostly his special teams and that kind of stuff. So I agree with you. I don't know who's going to play that role as the gunner. I don't know has anybody asked that question? Nobody cares about the gunners except us, right? We're sickos. We're talking about gunner and punt coverage here.
Yeah, I know it. Xavier Filsaime figures to be on there. Ryan Niblett. You'll likely see, a Cade Phillips early on. Grayson Littleton. They've got some guys now. To your point, how can they, improve their stock through special teams to get on the field elsewhere? Because we've seen it time and time again. Marcus, I got one more question for you.
What's up?
What are you most excited to see this year? Just very simple, because we've talked about it. Is it Arch? Is there anything else that trumps that?
I think Arch is kind of the go-to for everybody, right? I think I heard Will talking about it this morning some when he was on Coffee and Football, and I really liked his answer. He was talking about how he's really impressed with Arch's process, and I hear Sark speak about process quite a bit. So I'm anxious to see what he's able to actually just go out there and do, because I think a lot of the pressure that's being heaped upon him, he's even said, multiple times, like, he doesn't deserve all this attention. He gets it. It comes with the name and the rating, but like, I'm happy for him to be able to get an opportunity to just go out there and play. Right. But I think the cool part about it is, like, he doesn't have to be VY, right? Like, it would be great if he's a version of it. But I think at least the way this offense is constructed, the way that Sark calls the plays, like, he just needs to be pretty good, right? Like, people want him to have the Heisman odds and all that. And yes, that'd be awesome, right? We'd all love it. Everybody loves to see the touchdowns, but he just needs to be good. He's going to make mistakes. People are going to rip him apart for those, but I think they have a good thing going there. So I'm excited to see that. I mean, obviously, coming out of high school, I was a defensive guy. So I am really anxious to see the way that, PK and Akina and just all these guys on the defensive staff. You have Layla Allen coming over from Ohio State, which I kind of even mentioned to you, Rod, when we were talking. I'm interested to see, like, he knows that personnel. Hero Canoe, he knows that personnel, how they're able to line up and create some mismatches, because as much as we're sitting here trying to figure out where they're going to use people and just project, I think they have a very clear plan. Especially at the linebacker position. I think these guys know who can do what, and they're trying them out at some different spots. So when you hear certain reports come out, you know, that's one thing, right? But I think you also have to remember this is practice. This is an opportunity for them to try these things before it's, you know, what we call live bullets, and before it truly matters, to kind of test the limits of some of these players, see what they can do. I even think about it in reference to Arch. You know, I used to hear Aaron Rodgers, you know, kind of talk about this at times, where he would throw balls in practice that he probably wouldn't throw in the game, just to see if he can get away with it, just to figure out, you know, like what do I have between my receiver, my tight end, you know, how far from the sideline can we get, you know, those kinds of things. And so sometimes when you hear about interceptions and stuff, it's not necessarily because it was a bad pass. It's not because it was someone put in the wrong spot. It's like, let's see what we got here before it really matters.
No, if
you're checking yourself.
No, it is. It's a good point. If you are a quarterback and you are looking at the quarterback position from an artistic perspective, right? All right. Your imagination must exceed your grasp at times as a quarterback. You must do things that are considered unimaginable. Andy Reid discusses this actually and tells Patrick Mahomes in practice, I need you to experiment in practice.
Yep.
And I know in the game you have your operational process, but if there's a throw that you think about making on that specific concept, you need to do it in practice. So we can see if it's possible. If we can see if your imagination exceeds your grasp, if you will, as a quarterback. And so I agree with you on that. That's brilliant by Aaron Russell. It's part of why he's a Hall of Famer, is you have that. In football's a sport, you practice more than you play. If you're going to master something, you got to master practice first. And then you can be great in games. You know what coaches hate? Gamers.
There you go.
They don't trust them because they don't see it in practice. And then all of a sudden, again, the balls out and you go, well, where the hell did that come from? I don't know what's wrong for this dude. Because in practice, he's fumbling the ball and he can't execute. But in the game, he balls out. Coaches hate gamers. They hate them. They don't like them. They don't like them. And there's never been a gamer that's become a Hall of Famer. Never a gamer. The gamers flame out at one point. The higher you go in football, the gamer will flame the hell out, guys. They ain't never been a gamer that's a Hall of Famer. All right? Because at one point, you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in. And football's a sport you practice more than you play. Okay, a couple of things. Sugarcane daddy, not the crop. I'm not sure if Buddy, Big Pal Chief Guy, is Bobby's burner, but he's threw out. He believes Bobby has a burner account. That Bobby Burton has a burner account, and that it's Buddy Pal Chief Big Guy.
It's like we got a secret shopper in the chat.
I'm just throwing it out there. Buddy, Pal, Chief Big Guy, we love you. You have to now disprove this sugarcane daddy random conspiracy theory. He thinks you basically Bobby out here patrolling and you know what I mean, patrolling the chat. Which honestly, it does sound like Bobby. I'm gonna say I love Bobby. That's not above Bobby at all. Bobby, that's not,
that could be true, Matthew.
That could be true though. He could get Jenny to do it. Jenny will do it. Yeah. Jenny knows how to do it. Yeah. So throwing it out there. Also, I got criticized by Hoosier Horn in the chat. He was upset with my Mac Brown impersonation. So I'll ask you, Marcus, do you? Because I don't have I have a Mac Brown impression, but it's just me doing a really higher pitched voice than I normally have, which just is kind of frightening. Do you have a good Mac? What the heck is that Mac impression?
I thought it was actually pretty good, Rod.
Yeah. Make sure that Sally told me. All right, yeah. Sure. All right, make sure you marry well, marry rich. Nothing wrong with that. All right, yeah. That's my Mac impression. Basically, do you have a Mac impression, Marcus?
I think we all got some quips just from stuff we would always hear him say. You know, I think the one you heard him say all the time is he would be describing any number of things, but he would always, you know, tail it off with, and that's fair. You know, so, it just would depend on the moment, you know, and every now and then, you know, guys, you know, when they come back and you know, you have your families around, a lot of times he'd come walk up next to you. And if a wife or a girlfriend was around, he'd be like, you know, y'all kicked your coverage there now. That's good old Coach Brown for you, man. I love that guy. But yeah, he always just had some little one-liners that I think, you know, we would always, you know, kind of quietly say, because there was always that rumor. Somebody used to say that like somebody did an impression of him one time, you know, in front of the team or something. It it didn't go too well. And supposedly this was years back, right?
I remember that story. I don't think that story was true.
I don't think it was either. I think that was like a Cleve thing. You know, Cleve used to throw that out there, and he would say, you know, they would always use this term, CJ, with this. They would talk about buses back then, and you know, my understanding of buses to that point was like Greyhound, but they would say Trailway. And so they said some guy, you know, at a game, I think it was maybe a bowl game, got up with some kind of impersonation of coach, and they said they put him on a trailway. But that was always Cleve kind of perpetuating that to kind of keep us in line. So
I think you're right. I think Cleve made that up, man. That doesn't sound like Mac to me at all.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah, no, but I would say that everybody had their own Mac in person. I'm sure you had your own coach. Because whoever your position coach was, that's who I think you saw him every day. You got a chance to get to know him. So my Akina is more on point than my Mac. I'll say that.
There you go.
I
think we all got a little Akina. You know, he running around yelling, strike. You know, so everybody got a little Akina because if he was out there, he made sure you heard him.
He made sure you heard him.
That's true till today, too.
It is. At 60, was he 67?
Have I told the story right over the summer? I was driving through campus. I was going to, I don't know, I had to drop something off at like the mailbox or post office or something. So the route took me through campus. I-35 was doing I-35 things. It was a mess. So I drive by where the bubble is and where the LBJ lawn is.
68.
68.
Wow.
Good Lord.
Well, I drive by on that little road between the bubble and LBJ lawn. I see a shirtless older gentleman walking up that stairway or that little walkway entrance to get into the bubble. I'm looking by. I'm like, all right, that's kind of strange. Didn't put much thought into it. Go to the mailbox, post office, come back. I take that same route back, and I see that same gentleman coming down the ramp, shirtless still, looking like he just worked out. It was just Coach Akina having a stroll. I was like, what's he doing out here? He's having fun in the sun. It was still 100 degrees outside.
Well, just shirtless though. Shirtless outside.
Just rolling around campus, 68.
That's funny, man.
I love it, man. I love it. I love the coaches. Okay, so that means because Coach Sark has admitted he takes walks after practice too, around the campus and just random places. So I wonder, because basically they can't all have their meetings until Sark gets back there. About practice, they can meet up individually, but I mean, when Sark comes, that's when you can meet because the head coach wants to delegate, like, all right, we're gonna do this, do that. And he's admitted, like, oh no, I told the guys I'm gonna be out of pocket for about 45 minutes. Like, I gotta get my walk in 45 minutes an hour. And I always thought it'd be strange. I know some Longhorn fans have driven by there and seen Sark and been like, hey, the show did look like Sark there, just like CJ. It's like, it looked like, is that Coach Akina? Nah, it can't be Coach Akina shirtless out here like that. Actually, it might be. You might have seen shirtless Coach Akina or Coach Sark randomly walking down, Guadalupe, I don't know, walking down Main Street. Who knows where Sark walks?
It's probably way more common than we know. I was watching that SEC show, and it did the little focus on South Carolina, and you would see Shane Beamer, running around, a neighborhood just like early in the morning, right? So I imagine they all got their own little versions of routines that people pass by and they kind of do a double take. Like, was that what that was?
Remember Charlie Strong did that. Charlie Strong said he used to run every morning, but he said he would run in the mornings.
Yeah.
He'd get I think it's like 3-4 miles in. He'd get a run in the mornings. And I always wondered, like, you better not tell Longhorn fans that route because they would come find him. I'm gonna run with you, Coach Strong. Get a little. I got some points I want to make about the game last week.
It's 4 a.m. Coach, how'd you let 4 PATs get blocked last week?
Exactly.
Running around on the scooter next to him.
The coin toss, Coach. What happened with that? All right, enough shots at Charlie Strong. Let's take another sponsor before we move on. Let's thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. We appreciate them very much and their ongoing support of Longhorn Texas football. Flat Creek Estate Winery, folks, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Now, we were bragging about the Super Texan for a long time, talking about how great it was and was winning several awards here regionally and locally. Well, they entered the Super Texan into the San Francisco Wine Festival, and it actually scored a 98 out of 100. It was damn near perfect. It was named the best top red blend in the country. So now they can brag that it's not only the best red blend in the great state of Texas, but the best red blend in the country. And it's folks, it's available at your local Specs, at your local HEB. I saw a display of Flat Creek wine at our local Central Market here in town. So the word is getting out about the great wines over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Not only do they produce some of the best wines on the market, but also they have a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. Thank you very much to our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery for sponsoring the winning drive. All right, got super chat here from the Nick Turn. Also, one of my favorite handles. Love that name, the Nick Turn. Says, what names are y'all hoping to hear after Saturday's scrimmage? Also, if you have never had square pizza for school lunch, I don't trust you. Well said. I remember that damn square pizza. And, man, ours wasn't good. Ours used to be burnt. I don't know why our lunch lady, they always burnt that square pizza. I don't know what the hell was going on, but it was always overcooked. I don't know about y'all square pizza, but I do remember it, the Nick Turn. I do remember very well. CJ, what are your thoughts? I don't know. CJ, you might be too young for the square pizza.
Yeah, we had these things called Bosco sticks. It was just like
square pizza.
Square pizza. What's a Bosco stick?
Bosco stick was basically two like mozzarella sticks about this big, and they throw some like pepperoni on the inside. Oh. If you ever wonder why like kids got like super fat, it's because we were eating stuff like this. It's exactly. Yeah. Imagine two of those in like a little goodie bag, leaving it like a birthday party. So it wasn't any good. But to the super chat, thank you, the Nick Turn, for the super chat. A couple names I want to hear. The first, Jaden Chapman. Now, I know we're working on the twos here, but where does he fit into that tackle rotation? Is he or could he push a Nick Brooks for that tackle 3 spot? Is he a guy that Texas could rely on at guard if one of those guys goes down? Haven't heard a lot yet, even after Andre Kojo went down earlier this fall. I want to hear if that's a guy that Texas can kind of use in a positionless approach for that offensive line, to go back to what we talked about earlier. So he's one. The other one, again, just give me more about CJ Baxter. How healthy is he? How complete is he on the field? Is there any restraints before Texas stops fall camp and prepares for Ohio State prep?
Weight matters.
That's the one I want to hear about, is CJ Baxter.
What's the fastest way to reach health,
making sure that he's good to go?
I like the CJ Baxter one because that changes. Like I said, I want to believe he is ahead of schedule, and everything sounds like he's ahead of schedule. Yep. I just don't want a setback. I fear the setback more than I'm optimistic about him being ahead of schedule. But you're right. If CJ, I don't know if there's better news to hear out of a Saturday scrimmage.
I agree.
Than CJ Baxter just wreck shop and look like his old self. I don't know if there's any news that would be, to me, better than that, Marcus. What are your thoughts about
CJ took mine. I mean, my very first answer is always I don't want to hear about injuries. I know people are always wanting to hear the little nuggets of this, that, and the third. The best thing that can come out of any scrimmage, any practice, especially this time of year, is that everybody came through it unscathed. So that would be first and foremost for me. And then after that, mine was going to be CJ Baxter as well. Just from a standpoint of like, when Sark speaks, I think he doesn't really sugarcoat too much. He kind of gives it to you straight. And so anytime that he's kind of wax poetic about CJ, a lot of times it's been about his leadership. And certainly it was, in that first scrimmage that, they were really happy with his progress. And so I think hearing that he was able to come along even further would be, a great insight heading into, the game with Ohio State. And then, I don't know, maybe if I had to, throw somebody out there for one more, it would maybe be Jelani McDonald, just in the sense of like, you've heard the steady drum beat. You just want to continue to hear that, right? I don't really need to hear much about Ant Hill. I don't really need to hear much about Colin Simmons or Taft. So just the guys that, had already kind of started to make a leap, last season, have, made that progression. I think, he's, probably a lot of people's kind of breakout player for the year. If he's not, I certainly expect that, there'll be at least a play during that Ohio State game that he may make to get on that national radar.
I like that. That's a good one to Jelani McDonald. I was going to go to one of the DBs because I like that. I want to hear about one of the other wide receivers too. Obviously, Ryan Wingo was the talk of the last scrimmage. Had a great stream. I want to hear about some of the other wide receivers. Maybe it could be DeAndre Moore. It could be Parker Livingstone. I'm not saying I don't have faith in those guys, but I'd love to hear about those guys starting to get chemistry with Arch. and connecting on some of those big plays. Jack injuries, I'll throw him out there too. You guys were talking about the most explosive players. Who are going to be the most explosive players on this roster? The tight end, I guarantee you, at least in the passing game, your tight end position, whoever plays it in Sark's offense, at least lately here at Texas, is going to be among your most explosive receivers. Because JT was top 3 his 2 years as the main tight end. Gunnar Helm was top 3 in explosive pass receptions. I think Jack Ingram is going to be top 3 too. That might be your surest bet, honestly. It's him and Ryan Wingo among that group. So I'd love to hear about Jack injuries. And yeah, I'm with you. The DBs, my fascination with the DBs continues. Is it Kobe Black that's stepping up to separate? Is it, a young Grayson Littleton? Is it Wardell Mack? Is it Warren Robinson? There is a spot open in that secondary. And I don't know if anybody knows who's going to fill it just yet. But there's a spot open. We just don't know who's on. And it seems like they are pretty set on Jalen Gilbo transitioning the corner. I feel like that's happening. I feel like that everybody now seems to be on board with that, and which makes it the nickel spot to me that feels like it's going to be on something. But if Kobe Black starts balling out and becomes one of your best 5, you can't deny him. He's part of your best 5. So that's who's your best 5 in the secondary, I guess, is what I want to know. Because I don't know if we know who that is.
Best 5 will play, right? Isn't that what he always says?
Best 5 gonna play. You know what, Keenum? Keenum ain't messing around. That's why you end up with Ahmad Brooks playing safety and Nathan Basher at safety, Quentin Jammer at corner, me at corner. I'm trying to get my best 5 out there. He'll figure it out. Yeah. So what is that? It's kind of what I want to know. Sugar Cane Daddy, not the crop, says Third and Longhorn should make every former MAC player do a MAC impression to see who has the best one. That is brilliant. I will text Nick Shuley after we get off the air, Sugar Cane Daddy. And I will say, damn it, we need to put together a reel after all these interviews with former players of them doing a MAC impression. I will ask. I'm upset that we didn't have this before. We've interviewed now so many guys and missed the opportunity, but we will start it. And I don't know when it's going to come out, maybe in a year or 2, because we got to get enough guys on it. But we're going to work on that, Sugar Cane Daddy, because that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Give me the line that Max said that got you to commit. Rod,
exactly.
For you.
Yes, there you go.
That's it. Give me in the Mac voice.
I can tell you the line. I can tell you I can give you the context and everything. Mac Brown sat on my mama's couch, drank her sweet tea. All right. And Mac was awesome. Talking about how great the sweet tea was and everything. Complimented mama. Mama loved Mac by the time Mac left that house. As he's walking out the door, and he's got coaches with him and everything. The coaches go first. Mac is last because he's, talking to mom. Thank you for your hospitality. Love your home. Home is lovely. And so are you. Mac doing his thing. All right. And he walks out. And as he's walking out of my garage, Mac Brown turns around like a rom-com and says, "Hey, Rod, just want you to know, I can't win the national title without you." Turns and leaves. Walks out. That was the last thing he said after his home visit. I can't win the national title without you. Walked out. I don't know if that's the line he gave everybody, or if it was Mac reading me knowing that's what I wanted to hear. I want to hear you can't do it without me. Yeah, mama. Mama loved Mac. Exactly. Texas recruiter was 16, pretty much. I don't know what it was, but that was the line. I was like, damn. It was like, what's the line? You had me at hello. That was it. That was the line for Rod B. I was like, you can't win it without me. You need me to win it. All right, I got you. He didn't need me to win it. He never did win it with me. My point, it was a great line. He delivered at the perfect time. There you go. So I agree with you, CJ. We'll get everybody's. What was the Mac line that sold you? Give it to me, because that was it for me. All right, let's thank another sponsor. Let's thank our friends over at South Point before we get close to the end of our live stream. We'll answer a few more questions, but let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge first. You can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, folks, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in the all-new Ram 1500, proven to last. Plus, you get employee incentive pricing. That's right. You pay what the employees pay. That's the real deal. You won't find a better deal than that than South Point Dodge. You can go see them in person off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online at southpointdodge.com. Whether you need a car, truck, trade-in, something new, something used, South Point Dodge is Austin's automotive everything. So get to the point today with our friends over at South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com. All right, we got some questions here. I'm trying to go kind of rapid fire, get these questions in because I want to hit as many of them as we can before we're done. David Keith Williams always has great stuff. We appreciate DKW stepping into the chat today. Says, do you think rotating Michael Taft, Derek Williams, and Jelani McDonald all at free safety and strong safety is the best way for them to play their best positions and be on the field as much as possible? I feel like, David Keith, good question. I feel like, guys, they have 3 starters at safety. And I'm hearing Derek Williams, like I thought maybe he would take the first 3-4 games to get back into, real game speed shape, considering the injury. Sark's talking really, he's talking very complimentary about Derek Williams. Like he's already making plays and looks like he's moving well and he can be an alley cat for him. I think you got 3 starters at safety. I would rotate them like that. I would situationally, depending on, I'd want Michael Taft out there more than I'd want Derek Williams and Jelani McDonald. So for certain situations, maybe we're in red zone. Maybe it's, a crucial 3rd down, 4th quarter. Maybe it's just the 4th quarter. Like, I want you playing most of the 4th quarter. Other quarters will do whatever it may be. I think Michael Taft will probably be my top priority. Now, depending on the matchup, maybe you want a Derek Williams or a Jelani McDonald because they match up better skill set wise in there. Depending on if the team's a heavy run team or a pass team, that kind of thing. But I think you got 3 starters at safety, period.
Yeah. And this, again, doesn't even include an Xavier Fields to me who's come along strong and what eventually will be a Jonah Williams, who talk about a name that I want to hear a little bit more about this upcoming scrimmage. I want to hear what Jonah Williams does.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard you talk about this from time to time, Rod, but what if they felt like stealing from, some different defenses that, we see in the Big 12 and every now and then roll out a little 3 high? Like you just –
I love it.
You could have somebody in nickel and all of a sudden he's sprinting at the snap, dropping back. So
I love it. Honestly, I think you're right, Marcus. I think they're going to use – they actually use it versus Ohio State a lot.
Yeah.
And I think they could these days go with a 3 safety package, a 3 high kind of safety package, situationally, matchup based. Good stuff there. Arrow Kits 27, excuse me, says imagine 11 positionless / tweeners lining up in a horizontal line 7 yards off the ball, leaving the offense utterly in the dark about coverages / responsibilities pre-snap. Could that ever work? Dan Quinn, it won't. But Dan Quinn loves a lot of what they call, some of them call them radar fronts or amoeba fronts. I call them ghost fronts at times, where you basically line a lot of guys up right across the line of scrimmage, some in 2-point, some in 3-point, and the offense has no idea who's rushing and who's dropping. And it's like you got 7 guys all lined up. They don't know who's dropping, who's rushing, and it could be a simulated pressure, it could be a blitz, could be one of those. You can do that. Manny Diaz loved that kind of stuff. Manny Diaz was big on that kind of this freaky, exotic looks. But no, what you want to cause Arrow Kits is ID issues for the quarterback. Well, he cannot ID really who's playing linebacker, who's playing edge, and where the pressure is coming from. And that's going to be tougher for defenses. Offenses, excuse me. Against the Texans.
I'm curious too. I don't know this, Rod, but that could also be big for the offensive line of Ohio State, right? Like if their center has more experience than Julian's saying, a lot of times they may, rely on that center to kind of be the one identifying the mic and stuff like that. So you're right. If you can have guys moving around near the line of scrimmage and making it hard to figure out who's coming from where, that makes it tougher and a lot easier on defense.
C. Gaddis, good question here. I'll throw this to you, CJ. Who are the brainiacs like Barron and Taft? Who are the brainiacs on the team? That is a good question because there are guys, just like any classroom, and football's a game that's taught in the classroom a lot of times, guys who just have a higher acumen, period, for the game than others. I heard actually Surtain talking about this with Jade. He was like, that guy really understands coverages for a rookie. It's amazing. To C. Gaddis' point. Who are those guys, CJ?
Yeah, there's 2. I think Malik Muhammad, kind of falls into this conversation. Played a lot of football during his 3 years on campus. And Jalen Gilbo, I know that he was injured for a full year, but that's a lot of time to sit back, rehab, sit behind your position coach and understand what goes on. I've heard a lot of positives in terms of how he's also helped coach up that cornerback room. And again, he's playing fully outside corner right now, but to have those on both ends of your defense, essentially playing both outside cornerback positions, it's pretty important there. And Texas certainly benefited from having some heady guys on the outside a year ago with Jade and obviously Malik Muhammad. So that's where I think Texas is a little above IQ right now, is at that cornerback spot.
I like that. It's good stuff. All right, a couple of more questions here before we end things. Juan wants to know, who should I get betting advice from? Prodigy CJ Vogel or Moneyline Mateer?
Take it from Moneyline Mateer. He's got a better name. That's an awesome name.
It is a great name.
I'd trademark that immediately.
Did you come up with that name?
No, certainly not.
Okay, I was about to say, because your tweet kind of went viral, so I thought you.
Yeah, it did.
It's a great name. Great name.
I'd put that on a shirt.
Does he get out of this unscathed? I'll just ask that. Does he get out of this without?
I think so. What can you prove? If the two kids are just sitting on the couch, if that's what happened, how do you prove that?
Or disprove it? What he said?
Yeah, it was a joke. We watched the game and he had to buy it on pay-per-view or something. He had to pay the ESPN Plus to watch this Pac-12 After Dark game. I don't think you ever prove it.
I like John Bettier.
That's a good one too.
I think, honestly, Marcus, I think it's going to be great because if he's good, he's going to have to go through the whole season mired in controversy. And it's kind of remember that Cam Newton year where basically everybody thought his daddy took like a whole lot of money from the play for Auburn and Johnny Manziel. Like those are great years just because the player is still going to ball out. But away from the field and even during, he's got to deal with the controversy and all of the media hype and people obviously looking to try to find the proof, as CJ mentioned, that he actually did bet. They're never going to find it. But now those Moneyline Mateer signs, they go every game.
Yeah, every student section, they're gonna light him up. I saw, a little AI generated image of him that had him looking like the Godfather and holding like a stack of like 50 grand or something. Like it's gonna be endless. But you're right, Rod. Like I don't think anything's gonna come from this. NCAA has had plenty of like actual stuff right in front of them and not done anything with it before. So I don't see much coming from this other than just, maybe those guys north of the Red River still don't have the best decision making.
No doubt about that. All right, hey Marcus, thank you for the time. We appreciate you sitting in with us. Thank you to my man Jeff Howe as well. He was in earlier, but he's had some media availability. Sorry, the player availability. So is CJ, by the way. So CJ, get on out of here, brother. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. Go try to beat that traffic. Matthew, appreciate you being a real MVP as always behind the scenes. Love the super chats, guys. Sorry we couldn't answer all the questions, but if you have any questions that you wish to be answered, you can direct them to the live stream tomorrow. There'll be a Forced Coffee and Football at 8:15 with Jerry and Bobby, and then we'll have a 1 p.m. live stream with myself and whoever else is on with me. I'm not even really sure. All right, but we'll have a good time no matter what we do. So thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Von Lane, vonlane.com. Use the code OTF25. Save $20 off your first ride with Von Lane. Thanks to southpointdodge.com as well. And thank you to our friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. For CJ and for Marcus and for Matthew and for Jeff, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em. Thank you, Marcus.
Yes, sir.